You are closer to ending this relationship than you admit, not because you hate her, not because she is unbearable, but because something inside you is tired, and you are mistaking exhaustion for wisdom. Right now, your mind is building a narrative. You remember the arguments, you replay the moments when you felt unheard, you focus on the times she disappointed you. Slowly, almost silently, your brain begins to collect evidence. It feels logical, it feels mature. It feels like you are finally seeing things clearly. But clarity doesn't arrive through emotional overload, it arrives through discipline. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. If she suddenly agreed with you more, if she criticized you less, if she behaved exactly the way you prefer, would the restlessness inside you disappear? Or would it simply find a new reason to complain? Many men believe they are evaluating their partner. In reality, they are reacting to their own unmet expectations. When you feel disrespected, you call it incompatibility. When you feel challenged, you call it instability. When you feel emotionally exposed, you call it loss of connection. These labels sound intelligent, they sound reasonable, but often they are defenses. They protect the ego from admitting something harder. You do not like feeling vulnerable. Strength is not the ability to walk away quickly. Strength is the ability to remain steady when your emotions demand immediate relief. Weakness seeks silence. Discipline seeks understanding. If you end this relationship in a moment of emotional intensity, you may feel powerful for a short time. You may feel in control. But power built on impulse rarely lasts. What lasts is consequence. And consequences do not care about your temporary frustration. I ruled an empire filled with betrayal, ambition, disease, and war. If I had responded to every irritation with drastic action, the empire would have collapsed under my impatience. Leadership, whether over a nation or over your own heart, requires restraint before reaction. Your relationship is not merely a source of pleasure or discomfort. It is a mirror, and sometimes the image reflected back at you is not flattering. Sometimes what disturbs you is not her flaw, but the part of yourself that feels inadequate, insecure, or unappreciated. Before you make a decision that cannot be reversed, you must separate truth from emotion. You must ask whether you are guided by principle or by pride. Because once you walk away, you do not only leave her, you leave the version of yourself that could have grown through this challenge. Stay, think, examine. The next truths may challenge your certainty more than you expect. The first truth is this: you may be reacting, not deciding. There is a silent danger in emotional intensity. When you feel overwhelmed, your mind searches for relief. Relief disguises itself as clarity. Ending the relationship begins to look like wisdom, when in reality, it may only be an attempt to escape pressure. Ask yourself something uncomfortable. If this same conflict had happened on a peaceful day, after rest, after success, after feeling confident in yourself, would you still be ready to leave? Or is your desire to end it amplified by stress, frustration, and wounded pride? A disciplined man understands that emotions are real, but they are not rulers. Anger narrows your perception. Disappointment exaggerates flaws. Ego transforms small disagreements into personal attacks. In that state, your judgment is compromised, even if it feels sharp. You say you are tired of the arguments, tired of repeating yourself, tired of not feeling understood. But exhaustion is not evidence of incompatibility. It may be evidence of poor communication, unmanaged expectations, or your own inability to sit calmly with discomfort. When tension appears, many men instinctively search for the exit. They believe leaving proves strength, but leaving at the first sign of emotional difficulty trains your character in avoidance, and avoidance becomes a habit. Today, you avoid conflict in love. Tomorrow, you avoid pressure in work. Later, you avoid responsibility when it feels heavy. If you make permanent decisions based on temporary emotional storms, you will repeat this pattern again. The face may change, the dynamics may look different, but the underlying weakness remains untouched. Pause before you act. Separate what she actually did from what you interpreted. Did she truly disrespect you, or did she disagree with you? Did she betray your values, or did she challenge your comfort? These distinctions matter. A man who cannot differentiate between discomfort and disrespect will constantly feel wronged. You are not being asked to tolerate real harm. You are being asked to examine your own reaction before declaring final judgment. The difference between maturity and impulsiveness is measured in this space of reflection. A calm mind evaluates facts. A disturbed mind searches for escape. If you cannot sit quietly with your frustration without immediately planning your exit, then you are not choosing from strength. You are reacting from wounded emotion. Master your reaction first. Only then are you qualified to decide your direction. The second truth is this: you may be confusing wounded pride with loss of love. There is a subtle shift that happens inside a man when he feels criticized. At first he listens, then he defends, then he withdraws. What once felt like connection slowly starts to feel like opposition. And instead of admitting that his pride is hurt, he convinces himself that the relationship is broken. Pay attention to this carefully. Love does not disappear in a single argument. Respect does not collapse because of one disagreement. But pride reacts instantly. Pride does not tolerate being questioned. Pride does not like being corrected. Pride would rather walk away than feel exposed. When she challenges you, what do you truly feel? Do you feel unloved, or do you feel inadequate? Do you feel disrespected, or do you feel confronted? These are not the same experiences, yet many men merge them into one conclusion. They say, "She does not value me," when the deeper truth is, "I do not like how this makes me see myself." A strong man can endure being misunderstood temporarily. A fragile ego cannot endure feeling imperfect. And here lies the danger. If you interpret every moment of discomfort as proof that love is gone, you will constantly abandon relationships that still have potential. Examine your reactions honestly. When she points out something you need to improve, do you reflect or retaliate? When she expresses frustration, do you seek understanding, or do you begin building emotional distance? These responses reveal whether you are protecting the relationship or protecting your image. Pride whispers dangerous logic. It tells you that you deserve peace at all times. It tells you that being challenged is disrespect. It tells you that leaving proves strength. But true strength is the ability to remain grounded while your ego demands defense. If your love disappears the moment your pride is touched, then what you felt may not have been love at all. It may have been comfort, and comfort fades the moment it is tested. This does not mean you should tolerate humiliation or genuine disrespect. There is a difference between being degraded and being challenged. The wise man learns to distinguish between the two. The immature man treats them as identical. Before you decide that the relationship has lost its value, ask yourself whether it is love that has weakened or pride that has been bruised. Because if you walk away to protect your ego, you will carry that ego into every future connection. And each time it is touched, you will feel the same urge to escape. Master your pride, or it will master your decisions. The third truth is this: not every phase of distance means the relationship is dying. There is a fantasy many people carry into love. They expect intensity to remain constant. They expect effort to feel effortless. They expect emotional closeness to be uninterrupted. And when reality fails to match that expectation, they assume something is broken. But every long-term connection moves through seasons. There are moments of passion, moments of routine, moments of tension, moments of quiet. If you interpret every shift in emotional intensity as decay, you will never experience depth. You will only experience beginnings. Ask yourself honestly, Are you leaving because something is fundamentally wrong or because the excitement has softened? The beginning of a relationship is fueled by novelty. Novelty creates dopamine. Dopamine creates intensity. But intensity is not the same as stability. When intensity fades, many mistake it for incompatibility. They say, "We are not the same anymore." In truth, what has changed is the chemical rush. What remains is character, and character is quieter than excitement. This is where maturity is tested, when conversations become practical, when daily life feels repetitive, when romance requires intention instead of impulse. The immature mind interprets this as loss. The disciplined mind understands this as transition. You may be experiencing normal relational evolution and labeling it as decline. You may be confronting the reality that love, after the initial stage, requires choice, and choice is less thrilling than infatuation. Consider this carefully. If you leave every time intensity decreases, you will live in a cycle of beginnings. New person, new excitement, new passion, then again routine. Then again, doubt, then again, departure. It will feel like growth. It will actually be repetition. True strength is not chasing constant emotional highs. It is building something steady enough to endure emotional lows. This does not mean you should tolerate neglect or chronic indifference. There is a difference between natural rhythm and persistent disrespect. The wise man evaluates patterns, not moods. He looks for consistent character, not constant stimulation. Before you decide the relationship is over, examine whether you are grieving the loss of excitement rather than the loss of connection. Because excitement always fades. But deep connection, if nurtured with discipline and intention, becomes something stronger than emotion. It becomes commitment. If you cannot distinguish between a fading thrill and a failing bond, you will abandon stability in pursuit of temporary fire. Do not confuse quiet seasons with collapse. Learn to recognize the difference between transition and termination. Truth 4, you might be confusing emotional intensity with incompatibility. Most men do not leave because love is gone. They leave because the relationship stopped feeling easy. The conversations got heavier. The disagreement started cutting deeper. The emotional intensity increased, and instead of seeing this as evolution, they label it as incompatibility. But intensity is not the same as incompatibility. In the beginning, everything feels light because very little is at stake. You are both performing the best versions of yourselves. You avoid sensitive topics. You filter your reactions. You protect the image. There is chemistry, novelty, desire. It feels smooth because depth has not been tested. Then reality begins. Differences appear. Expectations surface. Insecurities show themselves. Needs become clearer. The relationship stops being entertainment and starts becoming construction. And construction is noisy. It is uncomfortable. It requires adjustment. Many men interpret this phase as proof that something is wrong. They think, if she were really the one, it would not feel this hard. That belief is seductive. It protects the ego. It avoids responsibility. But Stoicism teaches something different. Difficulty is not evidence of error. Sometimes it is evidence of importance. If a relationship triggers you, it is often revealing something about you. Your fear of inadequacy, your fear of losing control, your discomfort with vulnerability, your impatience when things do not go your way. Intensity exposes character. Instead of asking, "Why is this so hard?" a stronger question is, "What is this difficulty showing me about myself?" Incompatibility is real. Values that fundamentally clash cannot be negotiated forever. Life goals that move in opposite directions will eventually create fracture, but emotional friction alone is not incompatibility. It is friction, and friction can polish or it can burn, depending on how you handle it. Many men leave in the friction phase. They chase the honeymoon phase again with someone new, but every relationship eventually leaves the honeymoon. The pattern repeats, the excitement fades, the depth begins, the discomfort returns, and again they call it incompatibility. If you are considering giving up, ask yourself, are our core values misaligned, or am I uncomfortable with growth? Are we truly wrong for each other? Or am I resisting the version of myself this relationship is demanding? Running from intensity feels like self-protection. Sometimes it is avoidance. A Stoic man does not expect permanent ease. He expects reality. He expects complexity. He expects that anything meaningful will require strength. Before you give up, make sure you are not mistaking emotional weight for a fatal flaw, because sometimes what feels heavy is simply real. Truth 5. You are not just choosing a woman. You are choosing a future version of yourself. When a man thinks about leaving a relationship, he usually focuses on her flaws, her tone, her habits, her reactions, the things that irritate him, the things that feel exhausting. He builds a mental list of inconveniences and uses that list as justification. But here is what most men fail to see. You are not only choosing whether to stay with a woman, you are choosing who you will become if you stay. Every serious relationship shapes you. It forces certain traits to grow and others to shrink. Some women pull discipline out of you. Some pull chaos. Some demand emotional maturity. Some allow you to remain half-developed. Some challenge your excuses. Others tolerate them. The real question is not only, is she right for me? It is, who am I becoming because of this relationship? Stoicism teaches that character is the highest pursuit. External circumstances matter less than the internal structure you are building. If being with her makes you more patient, more responsible, more honest, more emotionally intelligent, that is not a small thing. That is development. Growth rarely feels comfortable. It feels confronting. It feels exposing. Sometimes it feels like pressure. But pressure can either crack you or strengthen you. The difference lies in how you interpret it. Now, be honest. Are you uncomfortable because she is toxic, or because she sees through your weaknesses? Does she disrespect you, or does she refuse to enable your immaturity? There is a massive difference between those two. Many men leave women who were catalysts for growth because growth required effort. Then they end up with someone easier, less demanding, less confronting. And years later they realize they stagnated. Comfort can be seductive, but comfort does not build greatness. This does not mean you must endure constant stress. A healthy relationship should have respect, emotional safety, and alignment in core values. But challenge is not the enemy. Sometimes it is the gym for your character. Imagine yourself 5 years from now. In one scenario, you left because it felt hard. In another, you stayed and faced the discomfort directly. Which version of you stands taller? Which one has more depth, more control, more stability? You are not just choosing a partner, you are choosing the direction of your own evolution. If she pushes you toward becoming stronger, more grounded, more aware, that is something to weigh carefully. If she pulls you toward anxiety, chaos, insecurity, and moral compromise, that is something else entirely. A Stoic man evaluates not only pleasure and pain, but trajectory. He thinks long-term. He thinks about the architecture of his own character. Before you walk away, ask yourself one question with brutal clarity. Is this relationship breaking me, or is it building me? The answer changes everything. Truth 6. Sometimes you want to leave. Because you're afraid of being fully seen, there is a moment in every serious relationship when the masks fall. Not completely, but enough. The polished version of you starts to fade. The confident exterior cracks. The controlled image slips. And suddenly she sees more than you planned to show: your insecurities, your fears, your contradictions, your need for validation, your moments of weakness. For many men, this is where the urge to leave begins, not because she is wrong, not because the relationship is broken, but because being seen at that level feels dangerous. At the start, attraction is built on projection. You show your strengths, she shows hers. You both curate yourselves, but intimacy is different. Intimacy removes editing. It reveals what you hide even from yourself. Stoicism demands self-awareness. It asks you to confront who you are without decoration. A relationship, when it becomes deep, forces that confrontation whether you like it or not. When she calls you out gently on your avoidance, does that feel like disrespect, or does it feel like exposure? When she notices your defensive reactions, does that feel like attack? Or does it feel like vulnerability being threatened? Sometimes the desire to leave is not about her behavior. It is about your discomfort with being known. To be fully seen means losing control over the narrative. You can no longer pretend you are always rational, always strong, always certain. She has witnessed your doubt, your frustration, your emotional immaturity in certain moments. And instead of growing through that exposure, many men choose escape. It feels easier to start over with someone new who does not yet know your flaws. But the cycle repeats, because depth eventually arrives again, and again you are seen. The Stoic path is not to run from exposure, it is to refine yourself through it. If she sees your impatience, work on patience. If she sees your insecurity, build internal stability. If she sees your fear of commitment, examine it honestly. Being seen is uncomfortable because it removes illusion, but illusion does not build strength. Now, this does not mean tolerating humiliation or emotional attack. Being seen is not the same as being shamed. A healthy partner exposes truth without cruelty. If she uses your vulnerability against you, that is not growth. That is toxicity. But if she sees you clearly and still chooses you, that is rare. And rare things should not be discarded lightly. Ask yourself something difficult. Am I leaving because she is wrong for me, or because I am not ready to be known at that level? Running from exposure keeps you safe. Facing it builds you. A Stoic man does not fear being seen. He fears remaining unexamined. Before you walk away, make sure you are not escaping the mirror she is holding up. Because sometimes the relationship is not the threat. The truth is. Truth 7. If you leave without mastering yourself, you will repeat the same story. At some point, the question stops being about her. It becomes about you. Most men think a breakup is a reset button, a fresh start, a clean slate where the past no longer applies. But life does not work like that. You do not walk into the next relationship as a blank page. You walk in as a continuation. Your patterns follow you. Your unresolved insecurities follow you. Your communication habits follow you. Your emotional triggers follow you. If you have not mastered them, they will resurface. Different face, same conflict. Stoicism centers on one radical idea. You control your character, not external outcomes. You control your discipline, your reactions, your integrity. Everything else is circumstance. So when you consider leaving, the mature question is not, will I be happier with someone else? The question is, have I become better within this experience? If the answer is no, then leaving does not solve the core issue. It postpones it. Some men exit relationships at the first sign of emotional strain. Others stay physically but never confront their internal weaknesses. Both paths avoid responsibility, and avoidance always compounds. Mastery is uncomfortable. It requires admitting you were reactive, admitting you were defensive, admitting you sometimes prioritized ego over understanding. It requires sitting with criticism instead of escaping it. But here is the uncomfortable truth. If you cannot handle conflict with her, you will struggle with conflict anywhere, at work, in friendships, in marriage. The pattern does not isolate itself to romance. Before you walk away, ask yourself something precise. Have I learned what this relationship was trying to teach me? Every meaningful connection forces growth in some dimension. Patience, communication, emotional regulation, boundaries. If you leave before internalizing the lesson, life will simply enroll you in the same class again. That does not mean staying in something destructive. If the relationship undermines your dignity or violates your values, walking away is mastery. Strength includes knowing when enough is enough. But if you are leaving to avoid self-confrontation, understand this. You are not escaping discomfort. You are deferring it. A Stoic man does not measure decisions by immediate relief. He measures them by long-term alignment with virtue, integrity, self-respect, strength. So here is the final reflection. If you stay, stay with growth as your mission. If you leave, leave having extracted the lesson. But do not leave as the same man who entered. Because if you do, the next chapter will look suspiciously familiar. And at some point, repetition stops being bad luck. It becomes lack of discipline,